Good evening and welcome to a view from the South Stand where Tottenham Hotspur have beaten Chelsea 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with two, not one, but two of our very own getting the goals. So without further ado, this is the match reaction show. Let's get the guests online. We've got none other than Mr. Justin and Mr. Haz. How's it going, guys? We've beaten Chelsea 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today. Absolutely buzzing. And like I said, two of our own with the goals today. One of them, absolute scorcher. Justin, I'll come to you first. Just before we get started, were any of you at the game today at all? Was you?
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I went.
Was at the game. All right, interesting to get your perspective. Then. Justin, I'm assuming you watched it on telly tonight.
I watched it on TV.
Yeah,
so,
fantastic stuff. Justin, what did you make of the game? I mean, it was hell of a game in the second half.
Yeah, it was, and do you know what? I must admit, I was worried. Would Dr. Tottenham show up? But they didn't. And I think the thing for me was that I was really pleased about was the fact of, if you've seen how Chelsea have played against Borussia Dortmund, against Fulham, against Southampton, they've dominated the ball. They've passed it all over the show, but there's no end product to them at all. And ultimately, all you have to do is just see it out, let them have their moment with that. And then once you start prodding and poking and things like that, then they start to panic. And that's what happened. Ultimately, it was almost as if actually Tottenham finally saw what a team was about and just played them exactly how everybody else has. And that, I think, was what I was more shocked about, because I honestly thought, when it being Chelsea, that Tottenham would crumble and Chelsea would just get their rhythm back. But no, hats off to them. Almost felt like, although Chelsea had more of the ball and were dominating the ball, it's almost like they weren't in control. It's almost like Tottenham were like, we'll just have the ball. We know what's going to happen here. We know how this plays out. We've watched you in every single game recently, and you're just going to keep doing the same thing. So all we got to do, bide our time. As soon as an opportunity opens, we'll take it. And we did it. We did it twice, clinically with both. I thought, I'll be honest, the first goal, I thought, it was a good strike, but I do think, a world-class keeper saves that. And the second one was just striker's instinct. It really was. But it was a game plan that everybody knew, and it was, but the club actually and the players actually put that into fruition, and that just meant once we'd done that, there was going to be never be any doubt. But it was just lovely to watch every Chelsea fan just absolutely crumbling, moaning and whining, and woe is me after spending £650 million in 2 windows. There's a part of me just thinks there's nothing more poetic than watching them having a full meltdown because they're not doing an Abramovich, which just sacks someone because they lost a game, So absolutely brilliant, And what's scary is that I'm almost starting to, and I'm not going to let myself get carried away with it, but I'm starting to believe that top 4 could almost be done, because you just look at where we are and you look at what is around us. It's almost like we are starting to peak or, get to where we need to be at the right moment. But no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You almost thought they just played the perfect game and they just put Chelsea to sword brilliantly.
Yeah, fantastically summed up. I mean, we'll come to the finer points of the game in a second. You was at the game today. Talk me through what you saw, what your perspective of the game was, because for me today we was a lot more workmanlike and we closed the ball down a lot more today. I mean, was that the case at the stadium?
I think we looked a lot more organised on the whole. Of course, it does help that this Chelsea side just look like an absolute mess, even though they have all these players, they just look an absolute mess under Potter. And I do think that is sort of like a small factor, because a previous Chelsea side would have had a striker to finish off all those creativity they have behind them. So I do think that kind of helped our defence in some aspects a lot, because I know Forster made a couple of saves, but apart from that, I don't ever feel like they were going to score. And despite the fact they had all the possession, I never felt like that scared they were going to score. I obviously will go on to the finer details of the defenders and whoever performances later on, but I think we deserve to win today, and yeah, it was just a very good performance. I think, like I said, it was the best time to play Chelsea, and it does play in our favour. I'm not as positive with Justin about top four, though. I do think there's still a long way to go. Because obviously Newcastle have 2 games in hand now, and I do think their loss today will probably spur them on to try and finish top 4 even more, sort of like we did back in 2010. I kind of think it's kind of like a mirror of that in some aspects. So, like going forward, I think we need to stick with this 11 because obviously it's the results speak for themselves, and and I think it was a good performance, and I'm happy with the result. And I was happy just that we scored a goal because it's the first time I ever scored against them in the league since we moved stadium. So yeah,
I mean, regardless of how bad Chelsea are at the moment and the players that they've recruited, as Justin mentioned, for £650 million, insane amount of money. We can't take away from the fact that we beat Chelsea at home. We've scored the first 2 goals against them at the new stadium.
I know that was
goal against them. So we've got that hoodoo out the window as well. And just to cap it off, that midfield seems to be working quite well with Skip and Højbjerg. They both know when to come in, when to come out, when to cover each other. And I felt like Skip's performance today was very professional. He stuck to his task. And he got himself about, and he deserved his goal for his performance today. But look, they're always going to be a threat, aren't they? Chelsea, no matter what, they had chances today. Albeit, had they had a proper striker up front. I'm not taking nothing away from Felix. Is outstanding in his own right, but coming into the Premier League from another league, for the type of loan fee that he's commanded, it's always a gamble, and I just don't think
because they use Havertz up front today as a false 9.
Yeah,
and I feel like kind of played into our favour, to be honest. Because I actually think if Aubameyang started, I think I'd been more scared, but he's not in. Him and Potter don't get on, so I mean, it was kind of inevitable he wasn't going to play. So yeah.
Justin, just coming back to you, there were some good individual performances today. Notably, one of them was actually Emerson Royale as well. Nothing outstanding. I'm not gonna say he was man of the match or anything, but today he put in another good performance. He was getting back. He was making good tackles. He was carrying the ball forward. Okay, his end product is still not great, but he was a lot better today, as he has been in the last few games. What would you make of his performance and possibly other players as well, such as
I mean, to be fair, I think it's almost as if a light bulb moment has gone off here, because it was almost like there was so much trying to just we will make you a wing back, we will turn you into this type of wing back, and it's almost as if it's almost realized actually we don't need that specifically. What we need is somebody who can almost give either Kulusevski or whoever is playing in that position a bit more freedom, but maybe just, because let's not forget, it was him that had the shot that Kepa spilled that caused all the panic for Skip's goal. So it's almost as if what we almost want from him is a guy who does the defensive stuff when it's needed, but can just drift inwards, because that is then another body who is then, just causing havoc. And that is exactly what he did. And
it's almost like a 3-man midfield when he drifts in there.
But full well that he's got the ability to get back. It's to say, right, I'll drift in if needed if we're going on the attack. But if not, I just drift back into my normal position. And it seemed to just work really well. It gives Kulusevski more room. It gives sort of more confidence, in terms of, because he will then trust what Skip and Højbjerg were doing. And just to echo exactly what Haz was saying, I think those two have been, really, really good. I like a lot of people, I was worried when we lost Bentancur and Basuma as backup, but these two have just gone in. And, when as well, you've got someone as confident as Sarr on the bench as well, it just sort of almost allows for that middle part just to be fully, relaxed, not worrying, and as I said, it just gives, from what we're seeing, Emerson that confidence of being able to go forward, and likewise on the other side from Davies as well, because again, we were a little bit worried about losing Sessegnon and obviously Perisic's form, but Davies has come in as well and does that job pretty well. So you've almost got inverted wing backs, pushing into the middle, and it's almost like Skip and Højbjerg are just, when they're doing that, are just pushing back and going, okay, you go forward. And as said, I know this was last week, but in the West Ham game, that's what we saw. Those two push forward. Højbjerg put the ball through, and then the rest was sort of history. And we're seeing, as I said, with the first goal, when Emerson just sort of cuts in, gets himself into that position, takes a shot off. Yeah, it wasn't a great shot, but it caused the havoc. And Skip then follows in and scores a really, really good goal. So I sort of felt that was where we were at our best, when we allowed for those two to come inwards. And it, as I know you said about a 3-man midfield, but almost in effect made for a 4-man midfield at times, because them coming in, them sort of pushing forward, it almost really sort of pegged Chelsea back and sort of made them struggle. They were almost sort of too scared to go too forward with it. And I think, as has said, when Havertz was playing, as a false number 9, it did feed in for us, because we could manage that, and it just sort of, because they kept pushing back, there was almost that distance, that the midfield was going into the defence and he was almost drifting into midfield. So it was just becoming more and more comfortable for us. And I think that is, I sort of, the only one that I would say that I wouldn't perhaps like to see start next time, maybe Richarlison. I do feel that Sonny needs, he's come off the bench. He's had his, if you like, slap on the wrist for not performing well. He's come back in, and as I said, he sort of had the corner for the second goal, and obviously the goal he scored against West Ham. So I do sort of, but whether he starts or not it doesn't really matter. I think if we're getting now that competition for places, as we're seeing almost across the board, that is massive. And it just now leaves almost as in the defence being the final piece of the puzzle for the summer.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. It was great to see the tactic that was deployed today worked quite well against Chelsea. Absolutely stifled them. In terms of Skip coming in the midfield, do you think this is a good opportunity for him now to really stake a claim? Because as we know, Bentancur is going to be out now till end of this season at least, but probably into next season as well. With the experience that Skip's going to be getting in that midfield now, playing first team games regularly in the Premier League and possibly and hopefully in the Champions League as well, do you think this is a good opportunity for him to stake a claim in that midfield and try and nail his spot?
I think the Bentancur injury has huge ramifications for not just this season, but probably seasons after. So this is Skip's chance to cement a place in the side. I mean, people forget under Nuno, arguably Skip was, in my opinion, our best player. So obviously Conte's come in. Skip was out injured, I think, for a while when Conte came in, and Bentancur came in and Højbjerg, and they kind of meshed into a very good partnership. And I do think Skip has a sort of advantage over Sarr because he is a Tottenham boy, I guess, and he has got more Premier League experience. So, which is why I think he's getting picked as well. I do think that's a factor. But this is really his chance, because I think regardless of what happens to Bentancur, I think we will bring another central midfielder, because Bentancur's has an ACL, right? And if he comes back, I don't think, hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think he'll be the same sort of player as he was before the injury, because an ACL was like a huge thing. And it's very rare you get the same player when you come back from that sort of injury. I think someone like Hargreaves, did he have a big injury like that?
He did have a big injury.
And I remember him,
ACL, but
he was, I remember he was a very good player. And when he came back from the ACL, he wasn't the same. Like, I do think Bentancur will stay long term, but he might end up turning into like a squad player in a few years or something like that. Because I'd obviously, like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope everyone's watching and saying I hope I'm wrong. But coming back from an ACL is like very difficult. And so I think Skip is like really important for us right now. And like I said, this is his chance, because in the summer there was talk even before in January that Conte wanted a central midfielder, like this is his chance to say this is my spot. So
Yeah.
so far he's done all right. So
yeah, absolutely. Just a quick reminder to everyone who's watching, we are open for chat at the moment. Have your say. What do you think? Do you reckon Skip can be a permanent fixture in this midfield, or is it a good opportunity for him to stake a claim in the team? Let us know in the chat. Coming on to Emerson, we all know what Justin just explained his side, how he sees it. But what do you think? Do you reckon he's turned a corner? Do you reckon he can continue with his performances, or do you reckon he's just doing what any normal right back would normally do? Just doing his job. But we think it's great at the moment because of how bad he's been previously.
You're gonna think I'm crazy now, but I've completely changed my tune on Emerson the past month. So for me, I think Emerson now is playing with sort of swag. Like I noticed a few challenges near the end of that second half, near the end of the game. Like he's up against someone like I think Felix went to the left and he had Sterling in the first half. And apart from that chance that Sterling had, I don't think he really went past Emerson from what I remember. He had who else went on the left? There was 3 players who went on the left that game, and he just dealt with all of them. And not just that, obviously he had the chance with the shot, and obviously end up with a skip goal. But it's just his confidence it's just sky high. And like I said, I think he's playing with a sort of swag in the sense that I seen him turn players, go past players. Like, where's this Emerson been for the past year? And it's like you kind of have to play him. He's the first team on the team sheet right now. And if he carries on like this, like I said, I think we'll probably save some money in the right wing back position, because if he's going to be like this, how can he go out and buy someone? Because obviously we say he's crossing. If he learns to cross the ball, then we're talking, he could be like crazy good. But like I said, I think just needs to keep going this level and just see what happens. But to do it against someone like Chelsea when they had 3 different options on that side, because I think Mudryk was the last one. He did really well against him as well, I thought. And
yeah, I mean,
it's almost like his aggression. Also, I've noticed his aggression and his intensity's gone up as well. It's like his tackles seem a lot more there seems a lot more desire there. Like he doesn't seem like he can't be asked anymore. It's like, and I do think the Porro thing is a huge factor, because if you
I was just going to come on to that, Has.
All right, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was going to say, do you reckon it's Porro's come in, obviously this big transfer, January transfer. Do you reckon it's been a bit of a kick up the backside for Emerson that he needed? I know he was buying his own equipment to train and everything else, but he seems to have really kicked into gear since Porro's come in.
I think, I don't know if you saw the reports that Spurs were considering selling Emerson or Doherty in January. And also you heard reports saying that Emerson actually wants to stay. So if he wants to stay, he probably realized, I have to up my game now because Porro is going to come in. Most likely they bought Porro to be first choice. And suddenly he's just a different player. I mean, you can't really put Porro in the side right now because Emerson's just been our best player. I'm not going to lie, he's been our best player since Porro's come in. And it's hard to argue that. And, all these jokes we made about Cafu and all that, it might end up coming true now. Let's hope. Yeah. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I mean, we've been, joking about, he's the next Cafu, this, that, and the other. But, I'm sure he's got his own idols from that, amazing Brazil team. He probably imagines himself as Cafu when he's playing now. But let's just welcome on Mac to the show. Gareth Mac.
Hey, you're right.
The one and only Mac man. You was at the game today, Gareth?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah?
It was great. Yeah. Do you know what?
Have you sort of, has the buzz died down a bit, has it? Or
no, not really. If I'm perfectly honest, it was beating Chelsea for the first time at home, at the new ground. Skip scoring a fantastic goal for his first goal for the club. It was absolutely fantastic. And I'm still buzzing from it. I was talking to Al on the way back, on the drive back. It reminds me of what the promise that we all felt for Danny Rose in the beginning and the amazing goal he scored for his first ever goal. For Spurs.
Oh, what a goal that was!
Both, and he went on and is highly regarded at Spurs, and we know already, without the fact that his first goal came today and with it being such a banger, that he's going to be highly regarded anyway. But it just there was something kind of nice about putting him in the same bracket for a moment with Danny Rose in that. But yeah, no, mate, it was just, I don't know what, just absolutely superb to dick those boys at home and give them something back after what they've done to us so many times. Was great, and to see them so toothless, lethargic, and not having anything in the final third. Just I went into this game today with no fear. And it was nice not to. It was that bad they had to bring a Babiyang on, and let's be honest, he's a fucking donkey at the best of times.
I mean, Gareth, look, the squad that they've got is in excess of 650 million, right? That's not taking into account the players that are already there. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at close to £1 billion worth of talent in that team today. How much more sweeter is it to have beaten this team for the first time in our stadium, obviously, but just knowing how much they've spent and how much their owner has put into that team?
On a personal level, to me, mate, it makes no difference. And to me, it doesn't matter how much money they spend. Money doesn't buy you happiness. You look at when Abramovich came in, it would have been sweeter and was sweeter beating them in the cup final with players like Drogba, with the money they spent back then, than what, because they haven't bought well. It doesn't matter that they've spent all that money. They haven't bought well. They're not a good team. It's not like we were going in against the side we played back when we played them in the cup final, or teams of yesteryear, since Abramovich took over. To me, we played a toothless Chelsea that we played before the money came in. That, for me, the money's irrelevant. Beating Chelsea is beating Chelsea. But as regards on the level of how good or where it stands, that one, it was a cup final, but the team that the team that they had for the Battle of the Bridge, the team they had for that cup final, were by far better, if not as and potentially cheaper squads, but by far more satisfying when beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, we seem to beat them at the wrong time rather than the right time, which is a shame, really. But look, Gareth, it's 3 points in the bag. It's another important step into getting that top four. I know it's not the be all and end all for most people, but look, we've got pretty much nothing else to play for in terms of league than top four at the moment, and trying to finish as high as we can. We're not going to get ahead of City. We're not going to get ahead of United, you'd like to think. So that fourth spot, I mean, these 3 points were really important. Obviously, we've got an FA Cup game coming up midweek. Is it on a Thursday?
Wednesday.
So, we've got another opportunity to rest players during that game, perhaps. But how important was it to get the 3 points today?
I think it's always important to get the 3 points. Spurs want, as fans, we want the best. And I think if we're realistic, knowing what Levy doesn't put into the club as regards the squad, top four is our Premier League. And it has been for a few years now. And we're never going to get past that unless, we start putting some Chelsea money into the squad, and that ain't going to happen. So I think top four is a minimum for us. So it's always important to get those points. I think with the way Newcastle are slightly dropping off, they're not scoring the goals that they should be. They're doing well, and they're having a good first proper season with the money that they've spent. But I think that we're with a 4 point cushion, with them having 2 games in hand, I think top four is probably more likely going to come our way. We've got the experience to sort of for that last charge, whereas Newcastle, I think, are starting to lose their way a little bit. I think the cup final's going to have knocked them losing that to United. So for us, top four is an absolute minimum. With the cup coming up, I wouldn't rest players. I wouldn't rest anybody. We've still got Champions League. We've got top four. We've got FA Cup. We like Newcastle deserve a final. We should be in a final, and we should be doing it on a more regular basis. So we need to be putting.
You need to rephrase that, Gareth. We deserve to win a final. don't just want to be in a final.
No.
Newcastle just did that today, and they ended up on the wrong side.
Yeah, and for them, it's like it's a first. We do deserve to win one, but we need to make sure we get there, and we can't do that by resting players, by putting up a half-assed squad and hoping that just because we're Premier League that we're going to do Sheffield United. We need to go at it all guns blazing, same way we did with Preston. We were as strong as we could be there, I think, at the time. We need to do the same going into Sheffield United and every game following on, regardless who it is. Yep. We need to get to that final, and we need to do the best, because realistically, Champions League, I think we'll get past Milan, but will we get further than that? I'm not so sure.
Just coming on to what Justin mentioned earlier on about Richarlison. I'll start with Justin, but Justin, Richarlison, next game, would you start him up top against you? I know Gareth just said he wouldn't drop anyone for the cup game, but would you start him up top against Sheffield United and rest Harry Kane? And
100%. I think I do understand what Gareth's saying, because obviously the momentum in there is good, but I think obviously it is sad that with the situation we have with our football club, as he said earlier, top four is our Premier League. That is our, that is the sort of the shining beacon in terms of the owners above. So for me, I would actually go with Richarlison up top, Moura and Danjuma playing, sort of behind him, and try and give those three a proper run out to see what they can do. Because, as I said, if we had all the players, that the likes of Chelsea had, then maybe we could do it, because if they get injured, it doesn't matter. We've got players that can come in. But as we've seen, with regards to, yes, we had a cracking result, but if Kane gets an injury, we're going to be absolutely stuffed. So I sort of feel that I do agree. I would have Richarlison up top. I'd have Danjuma and I'd have Lucas Moura, because at least that way you're giving those two a run out, and we're perhaps going to see if Richarlison, can do a job up top. But again, would be nice, a bit like we did in the Preston game where we gave Kane a rest, and Son did the job for us. So, I think that would, I agree. I think that would be the way that I would go.
And Hayes, coming over to you, what's your take on it? Would you possibly rest Harry Kane for the game against Sheffield United and give Richarlison a run out up top as the target man with two others coming in beside him, or would you keep it the same?
Well, I actually thought today was Richarlison's best game in the Spurs shirt. I mean, most people disagree with me, but he was brilliant today in every aspect. I mean, he was unlucky not to score. I think he had a couple shots as well. And I would stick with the same side, because I think Sheffield United is a massive game for us. The FA Cup's the best chance of us winning a trophy, and I would just leave it unchanged.
So you would go full out,
same 11,
same 11 that started today. Without worrying about if one of them gets an injury or anything.
No, and I mean, also, if we're going to change it, you kind of have to play Son on the left, I think, and Richarlison in the middle. But like I said, I think this game's huge, and I don't think Sheffield United will just lie down. So I think we'll need Kane for this anyway. And so just don't change the team. We've won the past couple games playing the same 11. Just keep the same 11.
And Gareth, how do you see that one going? Do you reckon we'll keep the same team? Would you absolutely not touch anything?
I personally wouldn't touch anything. Difference between Preston and Sheffield United is Sheffield United are a better side. They've proven that over the course of the last two cup runs that they've had. They played really well. They've done some damage. They're always capable. I think Richarlison might have a better chance getting on the score sheet, give his confidence a boost against Sheffield United. And I think by keeping the same squad and keeping it as it is, that'd be the best way to do it. If I was going to do anything, absolutely anything, then maybe I would change the way the top three sat. And that would just be purely maybe sitting Kulusevski and Kane behind Richarlison. To be fair, though, the way he scored that goal last week against West Ham, it was cool and nice side foot finish. But maybe sit them a little bit closer with Richarlison up front, and maybe do it a little bit differently that way. But I wouldn't change the personnel at all.
You wouldn't start Son on the left?
No.
For one other?
No. No, I wouldn't. Do you know what? He came on against West Ham, scored a goal. Great. He came on and he did a little bit today. You know, he created more chances. I know there was a stat. He created more chances in the few minutes that he was on than Richarlison did. But Richarlison did so much more today, which Son didn't do in the short time that he was on. You know, the way he got back, the way he fought for the ball and battled for it, and was successful in some of the duels that he was involved in. For me, I think Son is better at the moment until he gets some of that confidence back that he's been severely lacking to be an impact substitute.
Now, just one more thing I forgot to ask you, Gareth, and I will come on to another question, and I'll start with Justin. But Emerson's performance today, and I'll just go through some of the stats from today. So today he had 80% pass accuracy, 74 touches, 10 ground duels won, 7 tackles won, 4 clearances, 3 aerial duels won, 2 out of 2 dribbles completed, a yellow card, and 1 key pass. I mean, you go back 2-3 months, right?
Yeah.
And compare those stats to 2 or 3 months ago. What do you make of? I mean, what did you make of his performance today and the past 3 or 4 games?
In general, I think he's come on leaps and bounds. And the analogy I use for him at the moment is he reminds me of when we still had Friedel and Lloris battling for the number 1 spot. All right, all of a sudden, Pedro Porro's come in, and Emerson Royal has put his work rate up, his effort up. I don't know what's happened, but as soon as Porro's come in, all of a sudden he has upped his game and is making sure he's doing everything he can for the number 1 right wing back spot. And for me, it's the same battle that you had when Lloris and Friedel were battling for the number 1 spot in goal. The guy's been fantastic. You can't fault whether it's coincidence with Porro coming in that all of a sudden it's all clicked for him, or whether it is the fact that maybe he is a little bit lethargic, going, well, I only had Doherty up against me. Conte keeps picking me, so I'm all right. It don't really matter what I do. If there is an element of that in it, then all right, that's a bit shit, and he's hopefully going to get rid of that now that we've got Porro in. But if it is just a case of the timing of it all, and he's finally starting to click and all that stuff he's doing away from the club, with the money he spent on his individual training that he's been having done, then more credit to him for getting his head down. There's not many people who get booed onto a pitch that will still go balls out, whether he's having a good game or a bad game for the shirt. And yeah, credit to him where it's due.
Absolutely. Justin, does this prove to us all? I'm going to step away from the Emerson thing, but it's such a huge thing when he plays well now. We've got to talk about it. I mean, does this just prove what Conte was seeing in the training pitch? He's justifying his actions now, by him performing, because we all used to ask the question, what does he see that we don't? We see this guy playing every week, and we can see that he's not good enough. But, clearly Conte, he was seeing something on that training pitch that we weren't. And, what do you make of it?
I think, to be fair, I think we weren't wrong, because the problem was that what we were seeing was what he was putting out there, which was to be an out-and-out wing-back, which, as we have seen, that is not Emerson's game. If he had continued trying to get this guy to be like Pedro Porro, it wouldn't have worked. He is not Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is an attacking wing-back, will burst forward and whip those balls in from the wings. That was what he was brought in to do. What we are seeing now, which I think is very different to Emerson, is the Emerson that is allowed to play a game that is suitable to him, a game that is allowing for him to be defensive, do the basics of his job, but just allowing for him to drift inwards, and get himself into a position of where he can, sort of dictate or, get involved in that sort of element, and I think that's maybe something that Conte had seen but hadn't been prepared to allow him to do. But what's interesting as well with that is that's what we're seeing from Ben Davies. So you almost wonder, is this something that Conte has taken on board and has sort of looked at it and gone, right, I haven't got the wing backs, out and out wing backs I really want. So, and the one that I wanted had an absolute howler, unfortunately, against Leicester. So maybe I need to be more adaptive. And, you know, we have questioned with Conte if he can be adaptive in terms of what he does. But what we have seen is that if he can continue with being able to, you know, have these inverted sort of wing backs that allow more for their game, then actually, from what I've seen, that suits him. And I think that's something that Spurs fans hadn't seen, was that part of his game. What they'd seen was this out and out wing back rather than this guy being able to play an inverted wing back role, which for me, from what I've seen so far, suits him perfectly. And to be fair, that's probably perhaps why we haven't seen as much of Pedro Porro, because that is not his game. His game is to be an out and out wing back. So whether this is something that you know, Conte and the staff have looked at and thought maybe for us it's better suited to have inverted wing backs, and then if it's not working, go to out and out wing backs, which is where Perisic and Porro can come in and possibly do that job for us. So I think that's sort of where it's been a fine balance between what we have seen him try to do with him to what we're seeing now with him, which is almost a completely different role.
Absolutely. Just in terms of, I wanted to talk about the Hakim Ziyech red card. Now, I know Gareth and Haz, you were both at the game today. I mean, talk us through what happened there, because obviously he's gone in on a challenge. He's ended up getting a red card. And upon looking at the screen, he's come back and rescinded that red card. I mean, what was that all about today? Haz, I'll start with you.
I have to admit, I was so confused, because if you watch the replay afterwards, he does the incident right in front of the referee. So in my head, I'm thinking, why would you change your mind on something you just saw? It just seems really suspect. Like, he literally pushed or punched, whatever it was. I can't remember who it was in my head now. It was who Ziyech did that to, but it was right in front of the referee.
Emerson.
Was it Emerson? Was it Emerson?
Yeah, he pushed Emerson in the face.
Was it Emerson? Yeah, because I remember seeing it on the replay, and like for me, it was a red card. In my opinion, it was a red. And I think the weirdest thing about it is that he changed his mind. But the incident happened right in front of him, so I don't understand how you can change your mind. Like, it just makes no sense to me. And it's like, and he goes and checks it again, comes back, changes it to a yellow. It was all just an absolute mess. Honestly, it was an absolute mess.
The referee was a clusterfuck anyway.
He was crap. Stuart
Atwell was an absolute fucking moron. But that being said about the red card, for me, it doesn't matter whether he has done this or he's done this, right? He deliberately made contact and deliberately went to strike out, whether it be a push or anyway, to Emerson Royal. He made contact and he got given a red card for it. All right. Obviously, they checked the club badge and they changed it. You know, because at that point, obviously, Chelsea was still in the game. Obviously, until super fucking Ollie Skip came in and smashed in that great goal. And it was a joke. It was a joke. At the end of the day, the guy raised his hand. You look at Casemiro. He got sent off, right? And all he did was cradle the neck, wasn't it? But it was still raised hands. It wasn't anything. It wasn't a violent throwing of a fist. It was a cupping of the face. But he still got sent off for it. It was still deemed violent conduct because he raised his hands to another player. So therefore, Ziyech's red for me should have stood. Yeah,
I mean, we've seen it before with the Casemiro thing when Casemiro got a straight red 3-match ban. So you know what? I believe it was someone, a Liverpool player, that did it as well, and he got off with it, didn't get nothing for it. So they've obviously looked at the Casemiro incident and probably thought to themselves, we've made a mistake, or they've changed the rules to say, you know, it's not enough for us to give a red card. But look, for me, I think if you're going to make a decision like that on the pitch, you know, and it's right in front of you, you stick with that decision. Just like we give a penalty, you know, if you've given it straight away, you shouldn't be able to go back and change it afterwards.
Especially when it was, I don't see how it was clear. It was like Has says, it's right in front of his face. He's made the call from something that was right in front of his face. So why has VAR then got to intervene? It's for clear and obvious errors. That he's made a decision based on what happened right in front of him. Where's the clear and obvious error in that? You know, it's not like, you know, Ziyech came up to the referee and it was somebody else's arm who came over the shoulder and hit him, you know, went for Emerson's face. It wasn't, so it's not a clear and obvious error. So therefore, why is VAR getting involved?
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin, what did you make of that? Did you obviously saw it on TV?
See,
You
I
had
mean,
the
it's difficult for me because obviously I wasn't there. I mean, I sort of looked at it and I kind of understand what the boys are saying in terms of it's right in front of him. So if he's given it, it's like, how can you sort of, say, well, actually, I didn't see it properly. It's like, well, it's right slap bang in front of you that he's done it. My initial feeling was, and I think what has happened is because of what we saw, as you said, with the Casemiro and the Crystal Palace game. I think that has sort of followed, sort of trickled down to other games now. And I think this is what we will see. I didn't feel it was a red. I thought it was just a little bit of pathetic sort of, handbags. It was handbags between everybody. And I think, to be fair, Emerson did, which most players try and do at that point, which is to, make a drama out of it and see if they can get a player sent off. For me, though, I was actually glad he didn't get sent off because I think if he'd got sent off, Chelsea would have just almost gone for the point, and I think we'd have struggled to break them down. So it was almost a blessing in disguise he stayed on because it meant that Chelsea could carry on playing the game and we could pick them off. But it would be one of those ones that I was annoyed when it got overturned, but if it would happen to Spurs, I would have thought, yeah, that's good. I'm happy with that because I felt looking at it, it's one of those sort of, again, I agree with what Gareth is saying though. When you put your hands up to that sort of level, you're putting a conversation there to be had. So it is stupid to be done. And as I said, I think VAR has looked at it because of what, as they were saying, of previous instances where they thought maybe we should be letting these go. So, but as I say, it was one of those ones I would have been annoyed if we'd been given a red for it. But ultimately, it did a favour for us because it meant that Chelsea was still rubbish in the second half.
Do you know what I think the annoying thing for me with it though, Jacob, is like I said, why is VAR getting involved when it wasn't?
I
don't know whether you guys saw on the TV, but you would have seen it when Chilwell grabbed it. Royal played the ball, and Chilwell grabbed him by the back of his shirt, dragged him to the floor. Right, once the ball had been played, it went back up. It went into the Chelsea half. There was a challenge on one of the, and all of a sudden he got a free kick while Royals.
Oh yeah, I remember.
If VAR is getting involved for something that happened right in front of the referee's face, which isn't a clear and obvious error, then why isn't VAR turning around and going, "Hold on, boys, we need to go back because Chilwell's just violently dragged Royale by his shirt to the ground off the ball." And this again comes back to the inconsistency of VAR. You get involved when you don't have to. You don't get involved when you should. And say, come back, let's have a look at this. Or even to the assistant referee. Did you see that? It's and this is why
it was a shambles. Honestly, it was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen.
It was a joke. There was a couple of instances where you sit there. I think Kane went down with a head injury in the box. We had the ball out on the left side, right? He stopped play, so rather than do a drop ball at the ball, out on the left side with us with the ball again, he gave the ball to Kepa.
I remember that.
A clear and obvious error that VAR should be getting involved in.
But also, there was an instant when we should have had the ball back, and he gave it back to them. I remember. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it was ridiculous. It was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen.
And then he pissed off to go change his top. To be fair, I think he was checking his bank balance to see if Bowley had put the $5,000 in to, for everything going his way. Obviously, he hadn't, so he came out and gave him fuck all because after that he seemed to be a touch better. But Stuart Atwell, fucking moron.
Guys, look, we all know there's problems with VAR in this country. There's problems with substandard referees as well, like today. And I think it's going to be around for a while yet until they get it sorted. But I just wanted to come to a good question from What's the Point? It says, would Ten Hag have won anything under Daniel Levy? A question for the panel.
No.
Haz, I'm going to go to you with this one first. What do you reckon?
Can I just say, what's the point in the question? We all know the answer.
Well, don't forget Ten Hag spoke to Spurs, or Spurs spoke to Ten Hag, and it didn't happen. So that says it all, really. I mean, I don't think it would have worked out, and I don't think we would have been in the final. under Ten Hag. Ten Hag probably wants full control over like everything because that's how he had at Ajax, and he was going to get it at Tottenham. So they would have clashed eventually, just inevitably, and yeah, I don't think we would have won the final under Ten Hag.
Gareth, we're going to skip you because we know what you think.
Well, to be fair, if Mourinho can't win anything under Levy, Conte doesn't potentially look like win anything under Levy, then no, Ten Hag ain't going to win fuck all under Levy.
And Justin's waiting to have his say here. But
well, it's one of those ones where I think, to be fair, you can look at was it almost a blessing in disguise for Ten Hag not to take the job? Because when you look at, and I think the interesting part is when you look at what happens when the club tried to do the business to then when you turn around and said, no, I need this. You could see that at the beginning of Man United's season when they were getting battered 4-0 by Brentford, and things like that. And they were having to put up with the likes of Maguire in the team and people like that. And now, he came out and said, no, I need X, Y, and Z. And, you're looking at it. And I think ultimately that would have been a problem. I don't think he would have done a bad job, but then,
Sorry, mate.
That is absolutely fine. And for anybody who doesn't understand what I mean by this, then I'll just put that up there for the response. But to be really then to answer this question, maybe.
Maybe. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
I think what we would have seen what he did, what Poch did. We'd have seen somebody get close, then not get back, be pissed off and left. So basically, it would have been a long, drawn-out process rather than what we see with Mourinho and what we're going to see with Conte. There's the difference.
And there's your answer, Gareth.
Sorry, JJ, I couldn't help yourself, mate.
No, I know, bastard.
Look, talking about managers. On the subject of managers, right? Graham Potter.
He's fucking magic,
He's magic,
He's looking more like Ron Weasley these days, isn't he? I mean, he's gone from.
No, mate, he's not even looking like Ron Weasley. He's looking like Longbottom. And I mean the short, fat version, not the buff version.
Not the one on episode 6.
We'll talk about it because we played Chelsea today. And, we can all poke fun at him if we want to because we've beaten them. So, look, he's gone from Brighton, playing great football at Brighton. They were superb. He got the team going. Chelsea come calling and he runs along, straight away. The golden carrot dangling in front of him. But surely, this game, I mean, it's got to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I mean, how many games has it been now?
Big enough. He's not big enough for the Chelsea job, mate. This is the difference. So he's a mild-mannered manager, right? At least pitch side and in front in the public eye. And Brighton isn't a team of egos. And I don't think he is a good enough. He's a good manager. And I would have had him at Tottenham again. But the difference between Tottenham and Chelsea and Brighton and Chelsea is Chelsea are full of egos. Chelsea they go in and they think, well, I'm Chelsea. They expect to win. They all think they're going to start. They all think they're fucking superstars. And I genuinely don't think that he has the mentality to deal with big egos. And I think that's one of his biggest issues at Chelsea.
He's out of his depth. Completely out of his depth at Chelsea. He doesn't know who his best 11 is. He has all these players who are on big money. At Brighton's, he's had young players on a lot less money, and he can manage them. And unfortunately,
Squad was smaller as well at Brighton, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the expectation is a lot higher at Chelsea from the fans. Most Chelsea's fans I speak to are Potter out. I don't think I've spoken to one person in the past week.
The only voice that matters, Astrid Wet. She says Potter out. I must admit, I saw a video and I sent him a message saying, on the positive side, at least Chelsea haven't been battered nearly as badly as you have.
I've got to read
my
that
God.
Friday's comment here. He's getting Expelliarmus in the morning. That's fantastic.
Sorry.
That's
Based on
brilliant.
the previous conversation, are we talking about Graham Potter or the bloke who's going to finish with Astrid Wet later?
He's going to make Expelliarmus all over her face. Yes.
Yeah, I agree
But,
with this. They do need a proper striker.
listen. The scariest, the saddest part about it is two things. Number one, the job was right for him before they spent all that money, because that's how it worked for him at Brighton.
It makes me wonder how much say he's got in the people that are coming in.
Well, he doesn't. He has no say. He would have never have turned around and told them to spend that stupid amount of money. So he was told that he was going to go in, develop younger players, and build on a squad. When they pumped all that money in, that was the point that he was going to go against it. But the second thing, and what really worries me, I wouldn't be surprised if he is Tottenham manager next season.
You know what, Justin? I think Graham Potter's sort of like a mirror of Lampard, because Lampard went from Derby to Chelsea. That's a huge step.
It is, but
I
the
just
difference
think
being is
if
that
Potter
if
came
you look
to
at,
us
you
before
look at
Chelsea,
what
I
he's
think he would be
done.
better.
Name a football club that suits that. Building, taking a project, buying cheaper players, trying to improve them.
Graham Potter would do well. Graham Potter would do well at Spurs.
But he said no to us, you know. He said no to us.
I know he did, but he would do better because he hasn't got egos, and they would. And you look at Pochettino, you look at the mild-mannered manager, the arm around, like what you say with Sissoko. He just needed a little love.
Yeah.
Potter
as
would
much
be the
as
same.
it honestly makes me feel sick to say it,
Potter would do well. I think Potter would have done and could still potentially do well at Tottenham. And you say the worst part about it is, but I've got to say I still think he would do well at Spurs because he's not an egos manager. He can't do egos, and Levy is going to be enough ego for him to deal with. But player-wise, he would have a good balance, in my opinion, of what he can work with.
The issue is Kane would go. Just like that, Kane would be gone. Why would
you don't know that. You don't know how much he rates Potter. You don't know what Potter would say to him.
After today,
he won't rate Harry Potter, let alone Graham Potter.
Listen, he's got the Half-Blood Prince's fucking potion book. he would make up a luck potion, a love potion. Kane estate, it'd be fine.
So are we still talking about Astrid Wet? Or are we talking about
Harry Potter?
No, you don't need a love potion for Astrid Wet, mate. You just need about 8 inches and 400 pounds. So there you go.
So Justin, you reckon I'll keep saying Harry Potter now. You reckon Potter will possibly be at Spurs next season?
Look, let's face facts. How many times
you heard it here first, by the way.
How many times have we raided Chelsea for managers that have been sacked? What is it? We've had Villas-Boas, Hoddle, we've had Conte, Mourinho. I can't think how many more that there are out there.
We've still got to have the other one first before
Lampard, Tuchel, got to get through those two first.
Yeah, we've got Tuchel to have first.
Well, Di Matteo, I suppose we've got to get him as well. But it just the thing that worries me is that he's not the manager that I would want at Tottenham, but he's the manager that Daniel Levy would want at Tottenham.
A puppet, basically.
Absolutely. He's somebody that he knows. He can give him obscure players. He can work with them. We'd probably see the Celso back. We'd see Ndombele back. We'd see players like that he could then nurture, develop, and build on. And he wouldn't have to spend any money.
And repeat the cycle all over again.
Where we're going wrong, Justin, is we shouldn't be poaching the managers from Chelsea. We should be poaching the owners from Chelsea. That's my take on it. But hey ho, that's not.
Well, hopefully this American guy comes in and saves us all. But we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Wasn't an Iranian someone like Foley as well or something?
To be fair for me, it's Lewis Hamilton's fault. He's a fucking car crash, and he's turned Chelsea into a fucking car crash. So there you go.
Yeah, but to be fair, he has won 7 world championships, which I don't
know.
That was before he got involved with Chelsea as well. So maybe they're entwined.
Do you think Mourinho could go back to Chelsea for another time?
Maybe to the end of the season. But would you got to look at it? Would he leave Roma? Because technically Roma, what is it? I think 3rd at the moment in Serie A. Inter just lost.
But there's also big things happening at Roma. Even on a fan's perspective, Roma is one of the hardest grounds in Italy to fill. It's one of the hardest ones to get them to come in, week out. And you know what? With Mourinho there, with the football they're playing, he has got the love of the club. He's got the love of the fans. He's got the love of the team. That guy has everything he wants at Roma. He's got everything at Roma that what he had in his first term at Chelsea, right? So I don't see Jose wanting to leave Roma. There's no chance he'll leave Roma and go to Chelsea.
No. What he's doing, I think, and also we saw how much he lauded when he finished second with United behind City. If he finishes second with Roma, oh my word, that'll be another half. That'll be the other half of the trophy he got from when we sacked him a week before the final. So he'll have a whole trophy, you know, in terms of from that aspect. So no, he ain't going anywhere. I reckon they'll stick with Potter to the end of the season. They'll sack him, go back for Conte, and then we'll end up with Potter.
They won't. Do you know what? They won't. It wouldn't surprise me, mate, to see them try and go for Nagelsmann at Bayern.
That's not a bad shout, actually.
Listen, the only reason I say it is as much as he's having success at Bayern, and and it depends whether he's got the balls for the challenge of the Premier League. But he's a young manager. He does well with. He's got big egos in that Bayern squad that he's had to deal with, and he's dealt with them well. But also, as we've already said, Chelsea have the money. So why is he not going to get a nice big fat payday to try and change things at Chelsea?
I mean, look, we're talking about this manager, that manager. We still don't know what the situation is with Conte at the moment.
Let's bring it back to Spurs. Good one.
He's somewhere in
Italy.
He's somewhere in Italy at the moment, hopefully recovering. But it's strange, you know, when Stellini takes over, we seem to have something about us. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether the players feel a little more relaxed, you know, or less.
I tell you what it is.
I said this the other day.
Good cop, bad cop. That's what I think.
I said this the other day. It's almost like Conte, in him just being on the sideline, is his own pressure to the players. We seem to be playing freer under Stellini. I do you know what? I've loved the football that we've been playing with Stellini, especially when we played City. We had defence and we had attack. We didn't just have everybody kind of looking nervous. And maybe going back to the ego conversation with Potter, but maybe Conte's too big a personality, too big of a, not maybe ego, personality is probably the right word, too big of a personality to maybe he's slightly intimidating to the Spurs team, because there does seem to be a nervousness around the Spurs squad when Conte's on the touchline.
Yeah, I mean, it's been noticeable. I mean, when we've played with Stellini on the touchline, there seems to be a lot more freedom with the players, a lot more, they look a lot more relaxed. Even when they're playing out from the back, it's a lot more calm and composed, not under pressure too much. And these are just things that I'm seeing off, watching it on the telly. I mean, you guys are probably watching it on the touchline from wherever your seat is. You can see it,
Should I tell you why, though? Because if you watch Conte, right, he directs them to every single pass. Like with Stellini, you see some direction, but for the most part, he's kind of let them do what they need to do.
Do you know what I've noticed? The biggest difference between Conte and Stellini, if a Spurs player makes a mistake, he doesn't look panicked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's none of that panic of shit, Conte's going to fist me at half time or at full time, or I'm going to get subbed now because that's the second mistake I've made.
Beat the crap out of me in the changing room.
There's no panic when a mistake's made, because
heard
there's the confidence that they've got the cover as well if they have made that mistake. Whereas, like I say, it just seems a little bit nervy with Conte being on the sides.
But I've heard that Stellini has a better relationship with the players because he coaches them obviously day to day. Conte more, in a sense, does the whole managing in terms of like the team he picks, or he might speak to players. I'm not saying he doesn't speak to players, but Stellini, what I heard, actually has a better relationship with the players than Conte in terms of personable, if that makes sense. Yeah,
he's more player friendly.
Yeah.
So, guys, we've come to that time again. We're going to give a man of the match if we can. There's a couple of candidates today. I'll give my one at the end, but we'll have a man of the match and a little score prediction for the match against Sheffield United on Wednesday night. Justin, I'll start with you. Man of the match and your prediction for Sheffield United on Wednesday.
Man of the match for me, I think I'd go with Skip. I thought very mature. You know, it's a guy who got thrusted in, you know, pretty much out of nowhere, and has been immense from the Milan game to West Ham to Chelsea now, you know, and was confident enough to take his chance, you know, for the goal he scored, and just throughout the game, just, you know, kept, you know, had a lot of big players around him, Fernandes, you know, Felix, players like that he was having to manage, didn't faze him. You know, he just seems somebody now who I think, you know, you get these opportunities, as we saw with the Bentancur injury. You know, you almost think this is your time to shine. You have to step up and deliver now. And he has. And I think it was just personified by that game. It was almost as if he just allowed others to do their jobs. And when the opportunity came, he took a great goal. So I think that is who I would go for man of the match. In terms of prediction for the game against Sheffield United, it's one I worry about because, you know, I sort of still worry, you know, haunted by the performance of Middlesbrough last year. Could we have a similar sort of a drop off like we did in that game? I think we should be all right. I mean, the Championship is a tough league in terms of Sheffield United, and they've got clubs around them that are starting to circle and want to take that automatic position. So I think for me, they might rest some of their players because of the fact that it's more important to them to get out of the Championship and into the Premier League than it is to progress in the Cup. So I think on that basis, we'll win 2-0.
Excellent. We'll change the direction. We'll finish with Haz. Gareth, how do you see it going and man of the match for today?
Look at that little smile from Haz when he knows that we're going to finish on him.
Sorry, are we talking about?
Oh yeah. Right. For me, Skip. Yeah, Skip, hands down. Do you know what? He played a great game, even up until the 90th minute. He was still running his bollocks off to close down the ball, to put in tackles. I don't know if you saw Haz, but you know, where were you sat, Haz?
I'm West Upper.
So West Upper. So you were to the. So you know when the ball came out towards you guys, like it was like 88th minute or something.
Yeah,
and he just
comes sliding in. Yeah.
Centre circle, slides in and just Bosch gets it. Do you know what the guy?
Yeah, I know what challenge you're talking about.
Yeah, the guy was immense. He had a great goal. He as JJ said, you know, he's got a mature head, and I know Tommy's going to be somewhere touching himself silly tonight over his boy because we know how much he loves him. And he deserves to because he had a great game. He did. The guy was all over the place. He challenged well. He read the game. The guy was superb. And yeah, do you know what? I go back to what we all said about him before. Future Spurs captain. The guy is going to be fantastic. You know, and if he keeps going, he was brilliant before his injury. He showed the dedication by continuing to go to all the meetings, even though he couldn't train, just to make sure he stayed up with things. You know, the mentality on that lad's superb. And yeah, he was man of the match and deserved it all the way and deserved his goal. As regards Sheffield United, I think it's going to be tough. The one thing I don't agree with JJ on is I don't think they're going to rest anybody, because putting the first team out against a Premier League side who either will come close or potentially get a result against a Premier League side, I think is going to be a bigger boost to them and to their challenge for the promotion. Will do them the world of good. Saying that, I don't think they're going to get a result, but I do think it will be close. And even though my score prediction is going to be 3-1, I think they're going to give us trouble. I think it's going to be a close 3-1. It's going to be one of those where we 2 late goals, or we're going to be 2-1 down and then get a last-minute goal because they're knackered. But I think they'll do. I think they'll make a good account of themselves. And I think they'll make it tough.
There's your prediction from Mystic Mac, a 3-1 win for Spurs in a not so easy game against Sheffield United, and Skip for man of the match. Haz, we finish off with you, much to the delight of Gareth. Man of the match.
For me, it was actually Richarlison. I thought that was his best game in a Spurs shirt. I thought it was everywhere. Even when he went on the right, I still think he actually did a job. I think he was unlucky not to score. He had a couple 2-3 shots where I know he didn't even hit the target, but we kind of need to give him game time to, you know, finally get those goals and get to where he needs to be. In terms of Sheffield United, I think we'll win 2-1. I think, can we go to extra time in this game? Remind me, can we or not? Is it a replay?
No,
It goes
there's
to
a
a replay.
I thought replay to start with.
Yeah. I think we'll scrape it 2-1. If we play our first team. If we don't, I don't know. I think we might go to a replay.
So there you go. It's another win. Did you say 3-1, Has?
2-1, 2-1.
Sorry, 2-1. So we've got a 2-1 from Has, 3-1 from Gareth, and a resounding 2-0 from Justin. Big shout out to Tottenham away. Richarlison was shit. Waste of money. He just runs around being a C.
Well, he's done better than Son, so.
Average player. By the way, guys, if you don't already know, get over to Tottenham away. I believe they've got a show tomorrow night. Make sure you click subscribe and go and watch their channel. Great bunch of lads over there.
Washing my hair.
Yeah.
To be fair, that makes 2 of us.
Who we got here? Friday, skip man of the match for me too, just ahead of Royale, who was the best right wing back on the menu today. I believe it was more of a right back, but yeah, he played well today as well. Look, for me, it was out of either Emerson or Skip today, to be honest with you. But Skip just edges it for me. I think he put in a fantastic shift today. He absolutely ran the show with PH in a midfield. And like Gareth said, he was still going. 88th, 89th minute, he was still battling away, putting challenges in, scored a great goal today. What a day for the lad. And I do think, if he keeps his feet firmly on the ground and he takes this opportunity now with the absence of Bentancur, he could stake his claim as a permanent fixture in that midfield. So it's a very pivotal moment for him these next few months coming up. But look, in terms of Sheffield United, I think, we never really do so well away in cup games. We always make it hard for ourselves. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go with a 3-1 as well. It's not going to be an easy game. It never is in places like Sheffield. So, yeah, 3-1 from me. And hopefully job done and we'll move on to the next round. Listen, guys, thank you very much for being on the show today. Appreciate your view and your input today. Just quickly before we go, give us a shout and let us know where we can find you next. Has, where can we find you next?
So I do have my own channel, so it's Hotspur TV. So please like and subscribe and go over there. I'll most likely be doing a watch along on Wednesday for the game if the game's on TV. Is our game on TV? Do you guys know? Is it on TV?
Well, I'll be watching it.
Yeah, so it's on
But
TV.
I've got special TV.
All right, okay. You know what I mean. It's on ITV or BBC. And then I have a stream on Thursday at 6 o'clock, but I will have a video out either tomorrow or on Tuesday just talking about the game against Chelsea. Yeah. So
make sure you get over to Hazzy's channel. His channel is absolutely fantastic. And he brings on really, really good guests as well. Really interesting stuff.
That's why I've not been on yet.
Oof.
And it's on BBC.
Oh, thanks.
It's on BBC. Fantastic. Gareth, where can we find you next?
Well, whoever invites me on, to be fair, mate.
With another celebrity?
I'm the proverbial whore. Well, I haven't. I've got a couple of pictures I need to post. I met Dyer after the game, Sherwood and Sean Wright Phillips today. So, yeah, more to add to my little celebrity list of pictures that need to go up. So yeah, but to be fair, you'll find me on any random show who asks me to come on.
There you go. If you search the world of YouTube, Gareth Mack will pop up somewhere on some channel talking about something. So
I'm like herpes, mate. I'll pop up when you don't want me to, and I'll be really irritated and cause that itch. You know what I mean? Like, for fuck's sake.
In fact, I think Tottenham away's sussed it out. Special TV, Kazakhstan Babe Station. There you go. Thank you for that, Tottenham away.
You met Eric Dyer? Oh my God, how many people do you meet?
What, on Kazakhstan Babe Station? This is a bit weird, isn't it?
Me and Al were parked in the yellow car park. So as we walked through, there was Eric, and Sonny signed one shirt for somebody, and then he was pulled away, so didn't quite get a picture with Sonny again. So I just put the again bit in. But yeah, do you know what? It was nice. Bumped into Michael McIntyre, but already got a picture with him. Do you know what? I'll tell you this story. Actually, Michael McIntyre is just as much a fucking geek as regards Tottenham as me. right? He was so me, Aaron, there's a couple of guys down there, and went over, saw Michael McIntyre, and he asked me to take the picture. And Michael was like, Michael, can we take a picture? He was like, yeah. Hold on, boys, but wait. And he went, look. Got his phone up and went, we're in the lift coming down, and look who gets in, fucking Harry Kane. And he was like proper geeking out over it. And you know what? I'm not even gonna lie, it warmed my heart. You know, this guy who does, because I even said to him, you're going to do a text all now, are you, Michael? You know, Chelsea get battered everywhere they go. He just started laughing. But the fact that he geeked out for Harry Kane getting in the lift that he was in just cracked me up. It was brilliant.
Fantastic stuff. Just in case you don't know, Gareth is like a celebrity.
They find me.
Like a celebrity ghostbuster, but celebrity buster. He goes out.
He's everywhere, literally.
And finds a celebrity somewhere.
If he doesn't, hey, listen, Hollywood A-listers, Cameron Diaz, Susan Sarandon, Tottenham players.
Celebrities.
They've all taken restraining orders out again.
He's even met Daniel Levy, Justin. He's even met Daniel Levy.
Yeah, met him at Forest. Got a picture, asked him where the money was, and he drove off.
That's exactly where the money was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He answered your question.
Yeah.
Justin, where can we find you next?
The next one for me will be all things Tottenham, which will be a lot more colourful than this. And one thing I will say, because we're recording tomorrow, but Mac, obviously the reason we haven't invited you on is because we think you're an arsehole.
No, mate, you know what? That's fine. Do you know what? I'd rather, as long as people are honest about it, I don't care. I know I'm not to everybody's taste. Right, it's fine.
To be fair, I said we'll be recording. No. That's a big good laugh.
I lie. I'm on Bobby K's later on tonight, actually, in 2 hours. Yeah.
I'm on Bobby K's.
I'm not on Bobby K's.
Yeah, get over to Bobby K later on tonight if you've got time. He'll be streaming. I'm not sure what time it is.
10:30. It's
half past 10 tonight. Yeah. If you've not got anything to do tomorrow, don't have to be up early. Get over to Bobby K. Absolutely fantastic as well. Big shout out to Bobby K. Justin, where did you say you'll be next?
Yeah, so I'll be doing all things Tottenham recording tomorrow, and then it will be a case of a bit like Gareth. I'll just haul myself out to whoever wants me, and is willing to put up with the rubbish that comes out of my mouth. Something as simple as that.
That's it. And as long as it's not past your mum's bedtime, seeing as obviously you're still at home.
Yep.
Sorry, you call me a prick. I just got to get it in. Fuck you.
No, that's absolutely. Well, when you say that, I thought you were talking about Astrid again, if I'm honest. But
Right, guys, it's going to be a wrap from us. I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in today. I also want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. Bobby K, what's the point? Friday, Tottenham away, and everyone else in the chat that I've forgotten about. Scott M, thank you very much for being part of the show today. And Mile High Hotspur. We will be back on Wednesday for the FA Cup match reaction against Sheffield United, and your host Marlon will be taking charge of things on that night. So just before I go, please do not forget to smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, do whatever you have to do. It does help us out a lot, and make sure you click on that notification bell so that you know when we're on next. And as always, it's come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.